Wicked for Good was directed by Jon M and it stars Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. And this movie takes place after the events of Wicked, the first movie. So in this movie, we have Alphaba, who's now being known as the Wicked Witch of the West, who's now in hiding and trying to get everyone's attention by spreading the truth about the Wizard of Oz, and Glinda, who's now being known as Glinda the Good to everyone to everyone in Emerald City. And when things go wrong, both Glinda and Alphaba must solve this problem. And now we got our movie. Now, when I saw the trailers for this movie, I was like, the trailers do look pretty good, but I hope the movie will hopefully be as good as the first movie. Even if it's not as good as the first movie, I will respect them for trying. And when I heard some mixed reviews about this movie, some people liked it, some people didn't, and I'm like, and when I heard those mixed reactions about this movie, and when I heard this movie wasn't as good as the first movie, I was like, okay, let me see the movie for myself and figure out what's going on. Now, when I saw the movie for myself, and after seeing the film for myself, I thought this movie was fantastic. Did I love the movie? Yes. Did I enjoy it as I enjoyed the first movie? Yes. Is it as good as the first movie? No. But they've done the best they can. It is what it is. I had a blast with this movie. And Wicked for Good is like one of the best movies I ever seen this year. And but it's still not as good as the first movie, but I still enjoyed the hell out of this movie. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the actors and the characters themselves. Starting off with is Ariana Grande as Glinda the Good. Now, Glinda in this movie, who's now being known as Glinda the Good to everyone in Emerald City and also in Munchkin Land as well. And I like the chemistry that she does have with Alphaba and Fiyero in this movie, but mostly Fiyero for the most part, and sometimes Alphaba sometimes. But I do like the chemistry that she has with them, and her singing and acting in this movie was outstanding. And I do like most of her songs in this movie. And one of the songs that she does sing is "The Girl in the Bubble," which was one of my favorite songs in this movie. And I think that's pretty much it. And everyone in Emerald City is giving Glinda love and care and respect of how much everyone really loves her from the people of Emerald City and Munchkin Land, and that's it. And Ariana Grande is really good in this movie. Her singing and acting performance is outstanding. And honestly, I think she needs to get an Oscar. I think she deserves to get an Oscar for this film. And Ariana Grande is really good in this movie as Glinda, and that's all I can say for Glinda the Good. Next up is Cynthia Erivo as Alphaba, who's now being known as the Wicked Witch of the West. Now, Alphaba, since she became the Wicked Witch of the West, she's now in hiding. She's trying to get everybody's attention and spread the truth that the wizard lies. The Wizard of Oz himself lies. And I do like the chemistry that she has with both Fiyero and Glinda, like she did in the first movie and also in this one. And I think that's pretty much it. And Cynthia Erivo is really good in this movie. Her singing and acting performance is outstanding, and she did an amazing job as this character in the movie. And Cynthia Erivo is really good in this movie as Alphaba, aka the Wicked Witch of the West, and that's all I can say for Alphaba, aka the Wicked Witch of the West. Next up is Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero. Now, Fiyero in this movie, which made me scratch my head thinking his attitude isn't the same as it was in the first movie. But in this one, I think his attitude has changed. It's probably due to the fact that he works for the government in Emerald City. And the outfit that he does wear does look pretty cool. And And I do like the chemistry, and I do enjoy his chemistry that he has with both with Glinda and Alphaba in this movie. And I think that's all I could say for him. And Jonathan Bailey is outstanding in this movie. His performance, his acting, and his singing in this movie is outstanding, and he did an amazing job in this film. And Jonathan Bailey is really good in this movie as Fiyero, and that's all I can say for Fiyero. Next up is Michelle Yeoh as Madame Morble. Now, Madame Morble in this movie, so Madame Morble in this movie is also getting love and care to everyone in is getting love and care to everyone in Emerald City, to everyone in Emerald City, and she does also she does support or mostly work for Glinda. Now, and I know there were most of the times where she finds and when she sees Glinda going probably getting all giddy and excited, she probably be like, you know what, oh my god, what is wrong with Glinda right now? Yeah, so I think that's all I could say. And Michelle Yeoh, her singing and acting in this movie was outstanding, and her performance was also incredibly good in this movie. And Michelle Yeoh is really good in this movie as Madame Morble, and that's all I can say for Madame Morble. And last but definitely not least is Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum as the Wizard of Oz. Now Jeff Goldblum in this movie, I thought he was really good in this movie. Now, the Wizard of Oz in this movie wasn't really touched much in the trailer. All I know is one of my favorite songs in this movie that he did sing was the song Wonderful, which I'm like, this song was fantastic. I love the song that he sung in this movie. And there was a shocking moment in this movie there was a shocking moment in this film where I'm like, are you serious right now? Well, I can't say what it is. You have to see the movie for yourself to know what's going on. And I think that's all I could say. And there were some times where I like the fact that he does sometimes bond his friendship with both Alphaba and Glinda in this movie, and I think that's pretty much it. And Jeff Goldblum gives like one of the best performances and singing and acting performances in this movie, and he did an amazing job as the Wizard of Oz. And the Wizard of Oz also in this movie, he's still the same quirky, awkward guy that he was in the first movie, and he translated his attitude in this one. And I think that's pretty much it. And Jeff Goldblum is really good in this movie as the Wizard of Oz, and that's all I can say for the Wizard of Oz. And I think that's it for the actors and the characters themselves. So let's talk about the visual effects. The visual effects in this movie was outstanding. I loved most of the visual effects of how they feel strong and clean and realistic. It doesn't feel unfinished or feel more cartoony. Most of the visual effects in this movie were as strong as the visual effects from the first movie. Now, the visual effects from the first movie was outstanding. But in this movie, I thought the visual effects were pretty good. And also, there were some scenes in this... Now, there were some scenes in this movie. Where I'm just like, there were some scenes that were short, and there were some scenes that were taking so long. Where I'm just like, and I think there were some scenes in this movie that were taking so long. Where I'm just like, okay, can we get to the next? Can we go to the to the next part here? Can we go to the next part? Because honestly, this scene is taking forever. I think it's because it has to do with this. I think it's because the movie is trying to stay faithful to the Broadway play. So I can understand why this movie is trying to stay faithful to the Broadway play, because basically, to be honest, I have never watched the Broadway play at all. I wish I had, but I haven't seen the Broadway play. Like I said, I wish I had, but I haven't. I haven't seen the Broadway play at all. Maybe someday I will. But and there was some scenes, like I said, there were some scenes in this movie that were pretty long where I'm just like, okay, can we go to the next part? Can we go to the next topic now? Because honestly, the scene is just taking a while. But basically, I thought there were some scenes in this movie honestly could have used a bit more work. And there was some pacing and editing with those scenes that kind of felt rushed sometimes. Where there was some times where the like I said, I understand the movie is trying to stay faithful to the Broadway play, but there was some scenes in this movie, and there was some scenes in this movie that kind of felt like the pacing. Well, not the pacing, but the editing. The editing could have I think there was some times where the editing I think there was some times where the editing sometimes just feel either rushes through, or there was some editing with those scenes in this movie that could have used a bit more work. But the shots in the cinematography was great, but there's some editing. There was some editing, like I said, that kind of rushed things through, and there was some times where they do take their time with the pacing and the editing of this movie. And technically, this movie is extremely dark. This is actually one of the darkest movies in musical history. Now, I heard some people saying that this movie is darker than the first movie, and I do agree with everybody else. Honestly, this movie is basically darker than the first movie was, because there were some scenes that feels more dark, that gets very intense, and there were some scenes that kind of feels a little bit hard. I wouldn't say they were hard to watch, but it does stay faithful. It does stay mostly from what I understand. I think those scenes were trying to stay faithful to the Broadway play, but however, there were some scenes in this movie that that were too dark, and that makes things feel intense. And with this movie being dark, I honestly appreciate this movie being darker, being extremely darker. And yeah, like I said, this movie is darker than the first movie, but with this movie in particular, this went for more like a dark tone. This movie went from being sunshine and rainbows to being extremely dark and very heavy lifted. And the soundtrack and the soundtrack in this movie was out. I love the soundtrack in this movie. The soundtrack, the songs, the musical numbers in this movie was great, because like I said, it does stay faithful to the Broadway play. Like I said, I haven't watched the Broadway play, but I feel like there was some songs in this movie which there were some songs I like, and some songs, to be honest, I just didn't really care for. But I do 100% love one of the songs in this movie, and that is "For Good," which is the title of this movie. The song "For Good" feels more the song "For Good" does feel more mostly feels a little bit more heartbreaking. It feels more heartfelt, and kinda sometimes feels more heartbreaking in this movie. And the song "For Good" is like one of my favorite songs in this movie. Now, there were a couple of songs, like I said, there were a couple of songs I like, and some songs I'm like, that song is okay. This is a song that I like and didn't like. But the storytelling in this movie, I feel like the story is still staying faithful to the Broadway play. I think there was some scenes in this movie that were new, and the story in this movie does keep things in line. And I really appreciate the storytelling, but like I said, there were some moments in the movie where things get a little bit rushed through. But however, the storytelling in this movie was great, and the plot synopsis in this movie does sometimes feel a little bit hard to follow. But in my opinion, it does feel a little bit, I would say, medium to follow, in my opinion. And I think that's pretty much it. And most of the and also the set design in this movie, the characters, the outfits in this movie, I think everything in this movie, since the first movie did take place at Shiz University, this movie takes place in Emerald City. Yeah, this movie takes place mostly in Emerald City, and there were some scenes that took place in Munchkinland. But however, I thought the set design in this movie was fantastic. I love the outfits that everyone is wearing, the set design in this movie. Whoever did the set design for this film and all the outfits is such a genius. And all I know is I think everything in this movie, the set design and the outfits that people are wearing in this movie was fantastic. And most likely the rest of this movie, I thought this movie and for the rest of this movie, the movie was fantastic. But I think that's all I could say for I think that's all I could say for the review of Wicked for Good. So there's nothing much else to say. So technically, I actually love this movie. Now, I think that's all I can say. If you have seen this movie, what are your initial thoughts on this movie? Do you like it or you don't like it? But for me, I thought this movie was fantastic. And this has got to be like one of the best movies of the year. And I hope this movie, excuse me, I hope this film does get an Oscar like the first movie has. So I think that's all I can say for this review of Wicked for Good. And there's nothing much else to say. Excuse me. So be sure to like, subscribe, press the notification button, follow me on Instagram, and comment down below. And I'll see y'all on my next video, and thank you for watching.